All right, let's dive in. Whether you're a business student cramming for an exam or you're dreaming of starting your own thing, you know a company is way more than just a good idea. It's a bunch of moving parts that all have to work together. So in this explainer, we're going to give you the blueprint, breaking down the 4 essential pillars of management. Think of this as your study guide. Let's get building. So here's our game plan. We're going to treat this like we're building a business from the ground up. First, we lay the foundation, and that's all about managing people. Then we build the engine. That's our operations. After that, you gotta have fuel, right? That's managing assets and cash. And finally, we'll put up a shield to manage risk. It's a super clear roadmap for what makes a business really work.
Okay, first things first. We're starting with the absolute bedrock of any company. It's people. This is part 1, managing people, or what you probably know as HR. You could have the most amazing, world-changing idea, but without the right team to make it happen, it's just gonna stay an idea. It's the people who bring a business to life.
So what exactly is human resource management? Well, it is so much more than just hiring and firing people. Think of it as the art and science of getting all your employees pointed in the same direction, towards the company's biggest goals. It's about finding the right talent, giving them what they need to succeed, and building a place where they can really do their best work.
And this breaks down into a few key jobs. Recruitment. That's about getting the right people to even apply. Then there's training, making sure they have the skills to crush it in their role. Management development is about prepping today's employees to be tomorrow's leaders. And of course, you've got compensation and benefits. That's how you pay people and reward them for all their hard work.
And benefits are a much bigger deal than you might think. We're talking about things like health insurance, paid time off, and for the average company, that stuff adds up to almost a third of an employee's total compensation. But here's the real takeaway. It's not just a cost. A great benefits package is one of the best investments you can make in keeping your people happy, loyal, and engaged.
Okay, so we've got our team in place. Awesome. Now it's time to actually build the engine of the business. Welcome to part 2, managing operations. This is all about the nitty-gritty process of creating the product or service that you're actually going to sell. So, operations management. It's the whole system that takes all your resources, we call those inputs, and transforms them into something your customers actually want, the outputs. It really is the how of your business. How do you take raw materials and turn them into a finished product? This visual makes it super clear. Let's take a bakery. The inputs are pretty obvious, right? Flour, sugar, ovens, and the baker's labor. The process is, well, baking. And the output is a warm loaf of bread and, hopefully, a very happy customer. The same logic works for a service, like a dry cleaner. Wrinkled clothes go in as the input, the cleaning process happens, and fresh, clean clothes come out as the output. And that brings up a really key distinction. The bakery's bread is a tangible product. You can hold it, you can touch it. And the bakery can make 100 loaves and just store them on a shelf. But the dry cleaner, that's an intangible service. It's happening right then and there. And it usually involves a lot more direct interaction with the customer. Understanding that difference between products and services is absolutely crucial for any business student. Now, every single business on the planet faces this huge decision. Do we make this part ourselves, or do we just buy it from somebody else? This is the classic make or buy dilemma. You might choose to make it because you've got a secret recipe to protect, or you want total control over the quality. On the other hand, you might buy it because a supplier can just do it cheaper and better, which lets you focus on what you're really good at. It's a constant strategic balancing act.
A really influential idea in modern operations is something called lean production, which was famously pioneered by Toyota. The core idea is incredibly simple. Get rid of all forms of waste. And waste here means anything that doesn't add value to the customer. Wasted time, wasted materials, even wasted steps walking across the factory floor. The goal is to be hyper-efficient and deliver exactly what the customer wants using the fewest resources possible.
Okay, so we've got our team and we've built our engine. But you know what? That engine isn't going anywhere without fuel. And that brings us to part 3, managing assets. This is where we talk about the money, specifically the cash you need to power your day-to-day operations. The formal term for this is working capital management. It's the absolutely vital job of balancing your short-term assets, think cash in the bank and inventory on the shelves, with your short-term liabilities, like the bills you owe to your suppliers. You can really think of it as managing the financial lifeblood of your business.
So one of the most important numbers for any business to track is its cash conversion period.
Basically, this measures how long it takes to turn the money you spent on inventory back into actual cash in your hand. In other words, how long is your money tied up? And the rule here is simple. The shorter, the better. You always want to shrink this period as much as you possibly can.
Okay, let's walk through this timeline together. At point B, you get some inventory, but your supplier gives you a bit of time to pay. Then at point C, you sell that inventory to a customer, also on credit. Now look at D. That's when you have to pay your supplier. But you don't actually get the cash from your customer until all the way at point E. That gap, the space between D and E, that's your cash conversion period. That's the time your own money is out of your pocket.
This slide is perfect because it drives the point home with a simple comparison. Check out Pokey Inc. They have a 60-day cash conversion period. That's 2 whole months where their cash is tied up. Now look over at Quick Turn Company. Just by being more efficient with their inventory and collecting their payments faster, their cycle is way, way shorter. This gives them a massive cash advantage to reinvest and grow the business.
So we've laid the foundation with our people, we've built the engine with our operations, and we've got fuel in the tank. What's the last step? We have to protect it all. Welcome to our final section, Part 4, Managing Risk. This is the shield that defends your business from all the things that could go wrong. So business risk is basically the possibility of any kind of loss that could hit your assets or your ability to make money. And when we say assets, we're not just talking about your building or your computers. We mean everything: your employees, your customers, and even your reputation. Now, it's important to know there are really 2 big types of risk. First, you've got market risk. That's what you think of with investments. The value could go up or it could go down. But then there's pure risk, and with pure risk, there is only a downside. Think about a fire, a flood, or a lawsuit. There is 0 chance for gain, only the potential for loss. And this is the type of risk that insurance is really designed for. We can break that pure risk down into 3 main buckets that pretty much every business has to think about. You've got property risks, like what if a fire destroys your warehouse? Then there are liability risks. What if a customer sues you? And finally, personnel risks, which are things that could happen to your key employees that would hurt the business. So how do you deal with all of this? Well, you don't just hope for the best. You follow a process. First, you identify all the potential things that could go wrong. Second, you evaluate how bad they could be. Is this a small problem or a company-ending disaster? Third, you figure out the best way to handle each risk. Maybe you buy insurance, or maybe you install a new safety system. Fourth, you actually do it. And finally, number 5, you constantly review your plan to make sure it's still working. And that brings us to our final thought. We've gone through the 4 pillars: building your team, creating your process, fueling it with cash, and protecting it with a shield. And you can see how they're all connected, right? A failure in one area can bring down the whole thing. So the question I want to leave you with is this: of these 4 critical areas, which one do you think trips up new businesses the most? It's something to think about.